Hello everyone, and this is BioPhoenix here, and you're watching this on Xanadu Castle, and I'm pretty sure I'm still talking to a void on this channel, but that's okay. If you happen to be here in this void with me, well, kudos. So, anyways, so we're gonna be doing the, all the books that I read in 2025, and then the video after this will be all the manga I've read in 2025, so, yeah, pretty self-explanatory, so let's just get right into it. So the first one we got here is actually a series of books that I started, and that happens to be the Dark Tower from Stephen King, and these are the only Stephen King books I read this year. I would have read more, but then again, I just kind of wanted to branch out to different authors or try to catch up on different authors. So yeah, I ended up just reading these three from him, and I gotta say, I love them. Yes, I loved all three of them, including the first one, which is the one that most people tend to complain about, but I actually really liked it. So, yeah, I'm just going to just talk about all of them here, because I read 1 and 2 back to back, and then the third one I read a few months later, because I just wanted to take a little bit of a mini break, but, so yeah, I read the first three, absolutely loved all of them. So, without going too much into detail about everything here, because, you know, I could probably just talk about it for like an hour and it still wouldn't even scratch the surface, but, so, I do really like the first book. Like, yeah, you don't get the answers to everything right away, and there's a lot of things that probably don't make the most sense ever, but I still thought it was just very intriguing. Like, I really wanted to know more about, like, everything that was going on. And then in the second book, that's where you get the most, like, character-driven parts, where you get some introduced to some new characters, and they're all very interesting and all that kind of fun stuff. And then the third book, like, definitely gets into some pretty crazy shit, which I loved, and, you know, the train was cool. Loved all, like, the trippy ideas that were thrown in there. I thought it was just a really hell of a good time. So, yeah, like, you know, like what pretty much everyone else has said about the Dark Tower series. It's very, very good, very fascinating, very weird, but definitely very intriguing. And I'm definitely excited to continue more of it. And, yeah, and the next one I'll be doing will be Book 4, The Wizard in Glass, which is the one that it's either going to be you're either going to really love it or you won't. But given the fact that I actually love the first one, I think there's a good chance I might love that one. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm actually really, really enjoying it a hell lot. Alright, and now the next one here. Unfortunately, I read a book that I did not like. And it really pains me to say this because I wanted this book to be good. And I did talk about it in one of the videos I did recently. Well, not that recently. It's like 9 months ago. But it was a video that like almost nobody watched. So, whatever. So it happens to be The Ninja by Eric von Lustbader. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get the glare to not be so glary. But yeah, so this book, like I said, I did not enjoy it. I really wanted to because, you know, it's about freaking ninjas. Like, I mean, come on. Like, how do you, like, fuck up making a ninja book? So, without going too much into it, I'll just say that, you know, like, the action, there's not a lot of action scenes in it, and the very few that are, they're very all over the place. I don't know, and yeah, the book was just very boring. There wasn't like a lot of like interesting shit going on, and the few parts that like kind of seemed like they could have been, they didn't really lead up to anything great. I don't know. I was very disappointed. I really did not like it, unfortunately. But before, like, you know, before we like continue on with that, though, I do want to say that I am interested in wanting to try out his fantasy stuff, or his fantasy sci-fi stuff that he did before doing the ninja stuff, and maybe, hopefully, I might like those better. And next up we got is one that I've been hearing a lot of negative things about recently, but yet I actually kind of liked it, so that happens to be The Deep by Nick Cutter. And, yeah, so this is the first Nick Cutter book I ever read, so, you know, take that for what you will. So I've never read, Little Heaven, I never read The Troop, or any of that type of stuff yet, although I am interested in Little Heaven, and, The Troop is one that, like, I'll be honest, the concept of it doesn't really fascinate me that much, but that's not to say I'll never read it. Like, I probably will eventually, but it's just not, like, high priority. But I have heard from a lot of people that it is very, very good. So anyway, so the reason why I wanted to read the Deep first was because of the fact that I really love the concept of it. Like, I do think underwater horror is, like, a very, very cool idea, and I think it's great. Like, as you know, I love Sphere from Michael Crichton, and, okay, I will go and say that, okay, it's not nearly as good as Sphere, but just because it's not nearly as good as it doesn't mean it's bad. Like, yeah, like, so it's all about, like, this guy going, like, underwater, deep underwater, where you can't even see shit, and there's a lot of, like, trippy, weird stuff going on, and I actually like the trippy, weird stuff, and, you know, the foreshadowing, or the backstory behind, like, him and his family, and all that kind of stuff. I actually really liked those parts. The only part in the book I will say that I wasn't the biggest fan of is that there was a part where the main character was like writing down a bunch of things, and it like took like, I want to say like almost like 50 pages, and it was like literally just like a recap, and I was just like, okay, dude, like I've already like literally read all this shit, like I don't need to, yeah, so I kind of skipped over like a bunch of that stuff. But outside of that though, like I actually did like the rest of the book though. Like, yeah, like I would, like, like I wouldn't say it's like a masterpiece of a book, but I kind of liked it for what it is. Alright, next up we got here is Reoccursion from Blake Crouch with its like bright yellow cover. And yes, so this book was pretty good. I wouldn't say it was great. I do think that as someone that does love the hell out of a Dark Matter, I do think this one was a little disappointing. But as again, I don't want to say it was bad. Like, there were definitely some good parts in the book, but I kind of wish it was like a little longer. Kind of wish it kind of fleshed out a couple things more. But even with what it has to offer, though, like, I don't think it was bad, but yeah, that is one of those things. I do think that it kind of does retread a couple things from Dark Matter, but it just doesn't, like, hit the same. I don't know. Like I said, like, it's not bad, but I wouldn't say it was, like, super amazing and great. But I'm still interested to read, like, the one that came out after that, which is Upgrade. And then, obviously I'm going to read all his, like, other stuff. Like Pines, it sounds really great. And then there's, was it Abandoned, I think was, like, one of his earlier stuff that sounded really cool. So, yeah, like I said, not bad, but not super great. And next up we got is a Dan Simmons book, and it's one that's been on my, my so-called TBR for, like, ever. That happens to be Summer of Night, with its awesome cover art. So, this book was really good. I really liked it. But I will go out and say that it does kind of start out a bit slow, but not slow to a point where it's, like, unenjoyable, but it does kind of start out a little bit like, like, you get, like, your characters introduced, and, you don't really know, like, a whole lot about them at first, but then as it goes on, it gets, like, a lot better, and plus, like, the only other Dan Simmons book I read was Hyperion, which I absolutely loved, and if you know anything about with that book, like, there is some pretty graphic stuff in that book, and that's not even a horror book, so I could only imagine it's like, oh wow, if he's actually writing a whole horror book, then how more graphic can it get? And yeah, dude, there's definitely a lot of, like, some cool, like, scenes in there that are just really described, like, awesomely, that I really enjoyed a lot. Like, all the stuff with, like, the little haunted house there, yeah, it was great. So, yeah, no, I actually really enjoyed that one. Like, yeah, I would say that it was a little long in parts, but it was by no means bad at all. Like, I still really enjoyed it a lot. And next up we got here is, Intensity by Dean Koontz, which, has, like, a super bright, colorful cover, because, it, like, super stands out between, like, everything else that he's written. So this book was really fun. I liked it. It was very short, but it wasn't, like, too short. Like, I felt like the length, like, fit perfectly with the story. It's about someone who, like, gets, like, kidnapped, but the thing is, like, the guy, like kills, like, this girl's, like, whole family, and then she ends up following him, but, like, he doesn't realize that she's, like, in, like, the car with him. It's kind of crazy, but, yeah, it was actually pretty fun, pretty enjoyable. I don't know if I'd say it's, like, my favorite one that he's written, that I've read so far, because there's a lot of people that say that's, like, one of his best, but I don't know if I go that far with it, though, but it was pretty good and fun. Like, I did like, like, the intense aspect of it, which, well, I guess you would expect that with a name like Intensity, but yeah, anyways, yeah, no, I thought it was just a really fun, solid book. And next up we got here is The Island by Peter Benchley. I really love the cover art on this one, the shiny letters. I've always really liked that. Also, yeah, he's the guy that did Jaws, and also he did a book called The Deep, which is kind of funny. I talked about another book with the exact same name, but anyways, though, yeah, so unfortunately, The Island was pretty damn mid. Like, I barely remember it very well. Like, as you would expect, it's about a guy that goes on an island, and, then there's, like people on there that kill people. Okay, I know that's, like, such a shitty, like, bland way of explaining it there, but honestly, though, like, there really isn't a whole lot to say about it. Like, I barely remember it, and the only thing I do remember about it was that there is a scene that was, kind of gross, but I'm not going to repeat it on here. But yeah, there was one scene that was kind of like, okay. So yeah, other than that though, yeah, I barely remember shit about it. And next one we got is yet another short book, and that is, Clifford D. Simak. A Choice of Gods. Another one that I really like the cover art for. And this one, here's the thing. This book, I remember really liking it, but the thing is, as, like, with The Island, I don't remember a lot about it. Like, obviously this one, I really like the concept of it, where it's basically, like, far distance in the future, where, like the population is, like, almost nothing, like, almost, like, there's, like, not many humans about, so kind of like The Stand, but obviously, like, not nearly as chunky, but it kind of has, like, a similar idea to that. And then, then of course there's a robot who's, like, a monk, just like on the cover. And also I do know that there's, like, a lot of parts in it where they're trying to, like, archive, like, everything from the past to, like, preserve, like, history and shit, which was interesting to read about. But yeah, outside of that though, like, I mean, it's been a couple months, so yeah, I don't remember a lot about it, but just because I don't remember a lot about it doesn't mean I think it's bad, because I do remember liking, like, reading it. It's just, I think it's just because of the fact that I was just so busy with other shit, and it's just kind of one of those things I just haven't thought about in a while. But yeah, no, like, I honestly didn't think it was a bad book at all. Like, I actually am down to read more Clifford Simak, so yeah, no, like I said, not bad, but maybe not top tier, but I do remember liking it, though. Alright, and this next one here is Kefka on the Shore by Haruki Murakami, which is an author I've always wanted to read, and I finally got to it, and I gotta say, I love this book. In fact, I would even go as far to say that it probably is, like, my favorite book that I've read this year, next to the Dark Tower books. Like, I thought it was really damn good. So, it's a book I would definitely recommend reading to most people, as, it is general fiction, and, I really don't know, like, what the genre, like, would be for that book, really, so, but it's very good. It focuses on two characters, although, there's a lot of characters, again, there is quite a few characters in there that does focus in on a lot, though, but the two, like, that it focuses most on is this one kid who's, like, running away from home, and then there also focuses on this one guy who's, a lot older, and he doesn't really have a lot going for his life, and he's just kind of just, like, adventuring around, kind of thing. Like, I guess you could say he's kind of like a modern-day vagabond, I guess. So, and there's a bunch of different situations that happen between these two characters, and it's very fascinating stuff, although I will go out and say that Chapter 16 of this book, like, literally made me angry. Not because it was, like, bad or anything, no, it was just because there was a character moment that was very, like, disturbing and, like, what the fuck. Anyone that's read the book would know what I'm talking about, and I don't want to spoil it here, but I will just say that, yeah, there was a part of this book that was, that got me really angry, and then, yeah, and also it's pretty disturbing, which is crazy, too, because, like, this isn't even, like, a horror book, and yet, like, that part was, like, way more disturbing than, like, most shit that I've read that in the horror genre, so kind of nutty on that, but still, though, no, it was very, very good. I'd highly recommend it for sure, as I do think it's a book that I think that could appeal to most people, I think. And finally, as for the final novel that I read this year, that happens to be The Dekacon House by Yukito Ayatsuji. So, here's an interesting thing about this book, and this kind of will have to go into my main channel, was that, so on my main channel, I review video games, but in particular, I review a lot of, like, super obscure stuff that, like, almost nobody's, like, talking about. And there is a game on PS1 that was only in Japan called Yakata Nightmare Project, and it's a game that, like, takes, some of the books that Iatsuji wrote into, like, this one game, and it takes, like, out concepts from them. Like, it doesn't, like, fully adapt the books, but it does take a lot of elements from it. And when I was, like, doing research for the game, and I found out that his books actually came out to English, and I was so shocked, because I was like, wow, like, I never would have thought that these books would ever get released in English, given that we still don't even have frickin', like, Teito Monogatari, and that shit is, like, like, really popular in Japan, so you would think that we would get that, but no. Anyways, that's a whole other rant for another day, but, so I found out about these books from the video games, and, I was, like, very interested to know what they were, and I bought it, obviously, and I read it, and I liked it. I actually thought it was pretty good. So it's pretty much like a mystery book about these kids. They go to an island, and on the island there is a house that is the shape of a hexagon. I mean, I don't know how well you can see with the cover here, but like, yeah, it kind of looks like a stop sign, and all like the rooms are like in the shape of that, so everything's like kind of like cornered. It's very, I don't know if I explained it well, but basically it has like a very like trippy look to it, sort of thing, and I actually really like that a lot. and it was pretty enjoyable. I will go and say that the book does like kind of have like two different like parts, where it's like you got the parts where it focuses on the kids on the island, and they're solving this mystery, and then they all slowly die, which is like, you know, the fun part. And then the other part is it takes place on the mainland, where like this investigator guy is just trying to solve this mystery. So, and those parts are actually not bad, but I do feel like that, you know, whenever you do go to them, it's just kind of like, oh, I want to know more about what's happening on the island. Shit, so it's like, okay. But, you know, outside of that, though, like, despite the slow pacing at parts like that, though, like, I did thought it was very enjoyable, and I'm definitely going to be reading more of them, as there's quite a few of them. Like, there's, the Labyrinth one, the windmill, no, not the windmill one, it's like the water house one, or some shit. It's like the water wheel house, whatever. And I know there's, like, another one that's getting translated soon is, I think it's called the clock tower house, or the clock room or something. I don't remember. But either way, though, I thought it was actually a very cool one to discover. Alright, so that'll be it for all the novels that I read in 2025. So let me all know if you've ever read any of these books, or ones that you can definitely recommend for sure, or ones that you've read in 2025, and, you know, and we'll see kind of how that goes. And of course, I do apologize for not being super active on this channel. I've just been super busy with everything, but hopefully this year I can get like a couple more videos done, but we'll see. I don't know. Like I said, I'm a very slow reader, so it takes me a while just to get through some of these books. As you can tell, like, I've only read like, what, like 12, 13, so I don't know. Well, we'll see how things go. But either way, though, I'm definitely always watching a lot of you guys on this channel. So with that being said, thanks for watching and commenting, and have yourselves a great day.